Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of This is a Woman podcast. And I'm so excited for you all to hear from my guest today. She is amazing. She is a mom, she is a coach, she was a college athlete. She just works so hard to minister to so many girls over in Orange County and even to girls out of Orange County, to the athletes that have moved away for college or moved away for their job. And she hosts her own podcast and it has her own website and social media for the Female Athlete Mission. It started from this idea of just how can she have a source for women athletes to go to learn about God and talk together and get through the hard things that athletes and girls face. And so she's going to dive more into that and share her story of playing college soccer, as well as share why she started the Female Athlete Mission. And then we're going to get into a little bit about this week being the Title IX. It's been around for 51 years, so we're going to get into that and how it's protected women's sports and where women's sports are kind of at today. So I'm so excited for you all to meet my guest, Natalie Lawrence, that I've been telling you all about. And Natalie, we are so happy to have you here today.
I'm so glad to be here. This is awesome. I love what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. And so, as I told you all already, Natalie is a coach. She is a mom. She is doing so much in ministry. But something I hadn't mentioned yet is Natalie actually, she played college soccer. And as myself playing soccer and so many other athletes, often we can find our identity in soccer. And it took Natalie losing soccer to come to find her identity in Christ. And so, Natalie, can you walk us through that experience a little bit?
Yes, I would love to. I grew up in a town, Orange County. I don't know if you can call that a town, whatever. Where I grew up was very like performance oriented. I mean, it's like you have to go to the big school, you have to have the college sweatshirt, you have to be good at something to be somebody or be someone. And so for me, kind of somewhere along the way in high school, I really realized that soccer was my ticket to being somebody in this area. So I was sort of averagely good at other things, but soccer was kind of my way into that. Started to really pursue playing soccer in college. And um, growing up, I didn't have like any faith background or anything like that. Actually, my joke that I always say is that so my mom is Jewish, so I always kind of considered myself like Jewish, like I was like kind of Jew. Like
Yes.
I loved having that identity, but I like having that faith identity, but I didn't really have any faith. I didn't really know what that meant, what I believed, anything like that. So I just have to preface that because soccer was sort of like my religion, or I should say kind of achievement culture was sort of my religion. I'm doing this recruiting game and all this is going on, and I see friends getting recruited. And if you are a college athlete or a high school athlete trying to be recruited, or if you have a kid that's doing that, recruiting is so hard because you just like put yourself out there and you're like, love me, or like
Yes.
accept me, or choose me. And a lot of times, college coaches just don't even respond. And so, as someone who my identity, my everything was in my soccer performance and whether I was accepted as a soccer player, when they wouldn't even respond, I felt just like I didn't matter. I was just kind of, I had no, I wasn't even worth their time to respond to. Then you get some responses that are like, sorry, we're not interested. Or we'll come watch you play. They come watch you play, then you don't hear anything. So that's even worse. And all this stuff. So that recruiting game was so hard for me. Um, until I finally got set up with the University of Oregon. I was going to be a recruited walk on, and the coach knew my coach, and we had this great thing going. So I went up with three other walk ons in the summer. I'd committed to Oregon because I'm thinking, Pac 12 soccer, this is my dream. Oh my goodness, like I'm living the dream. So I put all my eggs in that basket, go there in the summer with these three other walk ons. And after playing, we played with our high school ID camp sort of as our tryout, and then we were going to stay basically for the college for like preseason. And at the end of those weeks of the high school college ID camps, they pulled each of us aside, and the other girls made it, and I didn't. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just the biggest loser. It was just so, it was it was the biggest sense of failure I'd ever had. Like, here I am away from home in another state, somewhere I don't really even want to be. I just wanted to be so I could play soccer there. So it was really in that place when soccer actually got taken away from me that I realized, like, without soccer, I'm nobody. And like, is this all there is? So it sort of set me on this spiral of, or journey to try to figure that out. I mean, I was so homesick. I tried to do the Greek life, but I just didn't fit that like crowd. I ended up playing club soccer there and found a little bit more of a home there, but I was still just so homesick and confused. And that's actually when I found out about more about God, found out about who Jesus was, found out that I was loved just by being God's creation, that I had purpose here, that God had created before I was even born, that He knew me. I mean, that alone like was revolutionary. That I could be somewhere where I felt so unknown and so just like, what am I doing here? But yet God knew me in that place. I was known, I was seen, and that He loved me whether I made the team or I didn't make the team. And so that was sort of like, it ended up being the best year of my life because I came to know my Savior. I came to know Jesus. And in that process, started realizing, like, I think I want to do like sports medicine or something where I could be with athletes and I could be helping them learn like what I learned this year, but without, having to experience failure to get there. And ended up finding a way to transfer to Point Loma in San Diego, which is a Christian school, and I ended up walking onto that soccer team and getting to just grow in my faith as a soccer player. And was an amazing experience getting to kind of have soccer be redeemed. And I think this is the biggest change for me that I want to share with you guys is that once you find out that your worth isn't connected to your performance, you're able to just play or perform just for the joy of it, just for out of gratitude that we're able to do it, just because it's amazing and what God has given us and the opportunities He's given us are amazing. Because it doesn't matter if I fail, that doesn't mean I'm a failure. It means I got to keep going, just keep trying. But I get to play soccer again. So it was just an incredible experience to have soccer all of a sudden be something that just brought me joy, from coming from a place where soccer was what I used to like really uh, decide whether I had worth or not. So that's sort of summary of my story. Hope that kind of made sense.
Yeah, no, I love that because I know, like, also playing soccer and just athletes in general, we go through that. Who are we? And people say, oh, like, who are you? And I'm a soccer player. I'm a football player. I'm a basketball player. Like, your identity is in your sport, which isn't healthy. And you said, like, once your identity is in God, you realize you can have joy even through making mistakes. You can have joy through the
Mm-hmm.
losses. And
Exactly.
that's my freshman year of college when you did the Bible study for Vanguard University soccer team. You did it for our freshman group, and that was something you really instilled in us was, listen, you're a college athlete right now, but in 4 years from now, you're not going to be. So you need to like know now who you are. And
Yes.
I miss soccer so much and I miss playing and having teammates and all that. But when soccer ended, I didn't feel like I lost myself because you and other coaches in my life really instilled that this isn't your identity. And so your
Yeah.
journey of finding it was maybe different than my journey, but it's a powerful testimony to you had to lose it to find who you were, but then you were able to get back into it. And I love that.
Yeah, and it's okay to have like, I like to think of it as little I identities versus big
Hmm.
I identity. Like, you're going to grieve not being a soccer player anymore. Like,
Hmm.
that's a big part of who you are. That is how you found a place in this world, at your university, at your school. It's where you found your friends and things like that. And there's always going to be grieving, but when your big I identities do not change, they are solidified, they are written in heaven. Like, you can you're not going to lose yourself. You're going to grieve, but you're going to still be able to stand tall, know who you are, and be able to find your next thing, or play pickup soccer for fun now,
Yes.
and be able to continue to play because it doesn't have that pain in it that so many people, when soccer or their sport was their big identity and they lose it at the end, because we all lose it eventually, soccer is like this painful thing for them. It's like this thing that was miserable because they just used it to prove themselves for so many years. And that's really sad to have lost the kind of the love of the game. So anyways,
Yeah.
that's a whole other, and honestly, that's something I see very different in women's sports than men's sports, is that
Mm.
women really cling to, well, okay, generally saying this,
Yeah.
I feel like the girls that I know don't enjoy playing pickup soccer after they graduate and stuff, because
Mm.
soccer became a way that they just used soccer in order to feel love and acceptance. They didn't just play for the love of the game, which for some reason in our culture, boys tend to be able to do that more. They just enjoy playing and they get to just play. And we could talk about why that's different if you want, but we don't need to. But it just, that's an interesting dynamic in our culture right now.
Yeah. And I have seen that. And I've had even coaches talk about that when they coach males and females. They say if they put a ball of or a bag of soccer balls out there before practice starts, the boys get up and they start playing around and messing around. And if you
Mm-hmm.
do that to a girls' team, they'll just sit there talking and be like, okay, 5 minutes till we have to start. And
Totally.
so they're definitely, you like, even just, and having brothers, I see that difference too. My younger brothers still play club soccer, and they're not really looking to play college, and I'm like, aren't you gonna miss it? It was my favorite thing, all that. And they're like, no, we can still play whenever, like that's not like
Ooh, that's
who I
good.
am and
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm, oh, you're right. Like you don't have to play college soccer to just enjoy it and keep playing for fun. um
Yeah, totally. It's good.
yes, but so with your story, it's you're using your experience and your story now to help other females in sports. And I know you coach soccer and focus in more on soccer, but you've created the female athlete mission. And can you dive into why you created that and kind of what that is?
Yeah, so I started when I first graduated college. I started working in this ministry called Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and it's a worldwide ministry that shares the gospel with athletes and coaches, basically. And I felt like as I was navigating that and working with girls, I felt like you Google Christian athletes or Christian athlete inspiration. And actually, when I was in college and I was a new Christian, I was doing that because I was like, how do I be a Christian and play soccer? Like, how do I pursue confidence and being really good without being prideful? How do I just all that stuff, that comes with being a Christian athlete? And all you could find is like football players that point to the sky after they score a touchdown, or like Allison Felix, who is amazing, but I not all of us are Olympians.
Yeah.
Well, very few of us will ever be. And so I just felt like she was this untouchable person, and the way she spoke was amazing and very eloquent, but it was very curated. Like I'm kind of like, where are the real conversations here for women that are like were like me playing college soccer, and also the girls that are coming behind me, kind of feeling like, where are those conversations? And I wanted to be able to talk about, how do you navigate like body image as a female Christian athlete? How do you navigate coaches, being a leader, like being on the bench, uh, playing a position you don't want to play? And here's the thing is, I feel like there's those conversations, if I can be honest here, like from a worldly perspective, I don't feel like the world gives us great answers to a lot of those questions. Like, how do I find fulfillment on the bench? It seems like the world gives you one option, and that's like, work your way to the top.
Yep.
Like, at the end of the day, what does the world value? The world doesn't value the person on the bench. The world values the star. And so I feel like Jesus' worldview is like, you have value and so much purpose on the bench. And let me tell you why. And let me tell you what Jesus says about you. And like, go live it and enjoy it and find purpose in it. And that your role might change, and it's still great to have goals to get on the field, but that's not what's going to give you value. So I just was like, I want to provide places to talk about these things and to give that kind of inspiration. Um, and so I started the FAM, which was originally a blog, and then evolved to a podcast and social media and things like that, where I could just gather, very similar to what you're doing, Sophia, where like gather. people to share their story, or I should say, not people, women to share their
Yes.
stories of how, like, victories they had, or what did God teach them in this season, and just kind of what is it like to be a female Christian athlete. And the idea is that I want to encourage women to grow in their faith, like on and off the field. And I believe that when we do that, we're going to influence the world too, that other people are going to see Jesus in us. And sports are just such a powerful idol and platform in our culture that people do look at athletes. And so there's sort of like a two layers to that. But it's been really fun getting to meet incredible, like amazing, incredible women that are doing it in different sports, different cultures, different levels. We have everything from like an NAIA player to a professional to a retired athlete to a coach. Um, yeah, kind of like all in between.
Yeah, and I love that, especially how when you talked about players struggling on the bench. And I think that's something that hits a lot of players if they do play college sports, soccer, whatever sport they play. Because a lot of times, if you go to play a college sport, you were the captain of your high school team, or you were the person that played the whole game and always
Exactly.
got to start, play wherever you wanted. And then you show up to your college team and you realize, oh, all 25 other girls or 30 other girls here, same thing. And now all of a sudden you're
Yes.
riding the bench. And I think that's a huge transition for athletes. And like I've listened to some of the podcasts you've done on that, even when I was in college soccer, and they, like you said, it wasn't just the, okay, well, go train more, go work harder. It was that you do have a role on the bench. And those are powerful things, especially for a girl to hear. I think
Yes.
mentally riding the bench affects girls differently than boys. So I love that you're doing that. And I love the whole female athlete mission. It's a powerful thing. And I think the way we're seeing culture go today, it's more needed now than ever. Today, the day we're recording, so this podcast, it's live Monday for you all. So happy Monday. But today we're recording on Friday. And it's actually the 51st anniversary of Title IX, which protects women's sports and it protects females being able to play sports. It protects females in the locker room. There's a lot that goes into that. And we're kind of seeing some interesting changes in culture with female sports and male sports. They're separated for a reason, but people are kind of getting them mixed up. So do you have anything to say on that, Natalie?
Oh my goodness, do I have anything to say? Well, that's amazing. Gosh, really praise God for where our culture has gone originally to give women the platform to play sports. I mean, like, think of our stories, Sophia. Like, you and I, we got to play. I'll never forget the moment when I was in Hawaii in college playing against the Hawaii teams. And I'm like, why am I getting this? Like, I remember like sitting with my coach and I was like, this is crazy. Like, why does the school, like, I'm getting paid to play here, basically. I mean, like, and I'm just getting to be in Hawaii to play soccer. Like, this is crazy. And that's because people have gone before us to fight for female sports that we got to play in to represent our college and get like scholarship money and all of the things in between. I mean, it's just really, I feel really grateful I was the beneficiary of something like that. Um, However, I do think that the way culture is going now is we're sort of erasing how much has been fought for female sports to stand by itself. And something that I actually just in the last couple of weeks am hearing a lot of, but I'm kind of hearing it all over. I have been hearing it for a while, is in order for in order to kind of make this worldview fit that um, the that maybe transition people that are transitioning from male to female can play with females and it's not that big of a difference as long as their hormones, blah 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 blah. The thing that I'm seeing that the only way to make that worldview fit is by comparing women's sports then to male athletes and saying, oh, they're just as good anyways. It's like trying to really say, like, Serena Williams, she could be any man, or whatever it is, and trying to say that. And this is what's bothering me so much is how sad, in order for women's sports to be excellent, now we don't get to just be compared to one another and to try to be the best in women. Now we have to be better than the men.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Like it feels like a losing battle. This week there's the WSL World Surf League. My husband and I are super into professional surfing. It's kind of a niche sport, but they have separated the men and the women, and I think they've done a great job at this. They've done equal prize money, and they're doing all of the men and women contests the same time. They broadcast them together, and it's been really elevating for the women's game. I mean, really elevating. Like everyone's watching both, but you would be blind if you were to say that there was no difference. I mean, there is a very big difference between men's surfing and women's surfing. It's not to say the women's surfing isn't amazing and isn't so entertaining, but the women's are not, if they were scored the same way against the men, they would not get scores. I mean, they just wouldn't. And I love watching the women. They have smoother style. They have a different sense of power, you can tell. Men's, a lot of airs. That's like the marking of the difference is really how much the men are getting airs. And the women's surfing game, that's not really where they're at right now. And if it was just one, then we wouldn't get to see that. We wouldn't get to see the women compete. And so I think that the surfing has done it really well. They've kept it separated. And as I'm sitting here celebrating like women's sports, I'm seeing like we can celebrate them being different, and we can really appreciate women's sports, and that's what I'm seeing in surfing. I don't know, did that make sense? I might have gone on a
Yeah,
rabbit trail there.
no, that does. And I love that because we don't have to put down male sports to celebrate women's sports or vice versa. And we don't have to mix them together to celebrate each other. We can celebrate them individually. And like you said, there is the differences. I don't know what your experience was with this at Point Loma, but at Vanguard, when we had a coach that coached the male and the females teams at the same time, we ran the same fitness tests as the guys, but the guys had to get better scores than us. And it's not because they train harder than us or they're better than us, but it's simply because they're going to be faster than us. Males at 21 years old are going to be a lot faster and fitter than females at 21 years old. And they don't work any harder. It's how we're built biologically. So we need to keep those separate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that if we're able to keep them separate, then we can celebrate the best female athletes. And without feeling like they have to compete, then like, how do they measure up against the boys? That didn't discount the person that was best on your team for fitness. Like they were the best on your team. And but if you had to compare them with the boys times, they wouldn't be the best anymore. And that's the thing that's happening with what's so some of the blurred lines that's happening in men's and women's sports is that women, biological women, will never be able to compete, like generally speaking, competitively against the men. And that's just, so it's a one-way street. So who in the end is getting discriminated against and getting hurt? It's the women, biological women.
Yes, exactly. And how you mentioned Serena Williams, we shouldn't have to put her against men to decide how good of an athlete she is, or vice versa, or any female athlete. And so it's an interesting thing we're seeing play out. And again, I think that goes back to, I love what you're doing with the Female Athlete Mission. It's a place for females to go and hear from other females and their experiences, and to hear how they're getting through things in sports, whether it's an injury, whether it's being on the bench, or learning how to be a better leader on the team. And I think that's such, you started this a while ago before all the craziness and culture kind of kicked in, but it's such a needed thing. And what is like a way people can look into the Female Athlete Mission? Do you have a website, social media? What's the best way?
Yeah, so website is actually thefamblog.com. But if you look up Athlete Mission, we'll be there. Female Athlete Mission is our handle on Instagram. We have a TikTok. Fun story is that I started TikTok, like I've done like 3 videos, and one of them went like viral. Honestly, I haven't done one since because I've been too scared. Because I did like I did something about LeBron James, and I apparently all I had to do was stop talking about women and stop talking about Jesus, and it would blow up. But no, just kidding.
Crazy how that happens though,
But
huh?
I know, I know. But actually, I just have to say this last thing about the Serena Williams thing because I think it has to do with this is another thing. Someone asked me, and I was interviewed on a podcast years back because Serena got was getting all this flack for breaking her racket when she was angry,
Hmm.
and um, they were comparing that to the men, like why can the men do that, but then when the women do that it's like this terrible like taboo and all this stuff. And this is where again comparing men to women is missing the point. And I think that's what
Hmm.
the fam gets to get at is we get to talk about how to be the best women of God that we can be. It's not about comparing ourselves. I don't want the character flaws that a man has. Just because they get away with it doesn't mean that I should get away with it. Like, I want to be better. I want to be sanctified. I want to be more like Jesus. And that's what we're talking about on the fam. And what a female specific platform allows us to do is we get to talk about it without comparing and without kind of playing the game or needing to play the game of culture of how to talk about all of it at once. We get to just like speak directly, like woman to woman, like what is this like, what's going on, how to be better. And so yeah, so anyways, also podcast is Female Athlete Mission. You'll be able to find us on any streaming platform basically.
Amazing. So, all of you listening, even if you're not an athlete or never played sports, still go check it out. Like I said, I learned so many lessons through the podcast and just through the social media posts that can apply to you, whether you're an athlete or not. I think even what you were sharing in the beginning, Natalie, about, your identity in a sport and the big I and a little I think that's something that's important for everyone, not just athletes. I know for me now, not playing soccer, it's easy to find my identity in my career or my identity in where I'm living or all these things. And so I think that message doesn't just apply to athletes, as well as learning how to be a leader of a team. Take messages you share about that and apply it to your job, apply it to your friends, apply it to your house. It's not, you can take these messages and learn so much more from them, even if you're not an athlete. And I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, the performance culture that I grew up in, it's really an American thing. So wherever you are, if you feel that pressure to perform, then you can relate to all of the athlete conversations. Your niche just might be something different. And so I hope this
Yes.
encourages anybody.
Yeah, and if you could give just you've already given so much advice, but if you can give one piece of advice to female athletes out there right now, what's something you would really want to share with them?
I think I would reiterate what I said before, really that it is about finding what your purpose is. Because no matter where you are and what role you play, whether your coaches change, your teammates change, because they will, every year it shifts, that you know that you're there for a purpose. And I know for me, that was like the biggest game changer in my life. I mean, for some of you, you need to know and learn that you're loved and you're accepted. And that is going to be all you need to know. But once you learned that, then the question of like, why am I here? Like, what is the point here? Because you're going to have seasons that are going to be really hard, seasons where you're going to doubt things, seasons that you're not going to feel valued by the people around you. But if you know you're valued by God and you know that you have a purpose in whatever avenue that you are in, then you're going to find fulfillment in any role that you play. You're going to find fulfillment. I mean, life is so fulfilling with Jesus because everything has purpose. Your suffering has purpose. Your winning has purpose. Your losing has purpose. All of it has meaning. It's not meaningless. It's not wasted. The hard things you're going through is not wasted. And so that is what I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the advice is follow Jesus. But with that, lean into your God given purpose, and that'll give you a vision for a way more fulfilling life while you're playing your sport and after.
I love that. I don't think that's something that people everywhere, but especially girls, are hearing right now. That just follow God, follow Jesus, lean into your purpose in Him, and everything else. Like, you're not. I think girls, it's so easy for us to dive into being happy instead of diving into joy. And there's a big difference.
Yeah,
Happiness
the
can come and
difference.
go. Joy is forever in Jesus. And so that message right there, I think, is so powerful to girls, just especially with social media culture, everything going on right now. But last little thing,
And I would say,
yes, yeah. No, go ahead, go ahead.
and I would say that as a woman, like if you want to have a family one day, like that's what I'm experiencing now. Like, so it's like there are times where I'm like, gosh, it's like I'm riding the bench again. Like I'm home nursing my baby while people are out there exploring the world. And yet God sees me, and this is my purpose right now. And I am literally nurturing this, I'm mothering this little life so that it can survive and thrive. Like, what a powerful, important role. And so, you're going to have times where you're going to question, specifically as a woman, because our life changes so much with each phase, like getting married, having children, whether you're going to work, whether you're going to go part-time, like how you're going to make it all fit. You're going to have that worth question again and again, and that role question. And I really believe that Jesus will give you that foundation for when those new things come up.
And to touch on that, so, you coach, you're ministering to all these girls, you're doing all this, and now you're mom to now two girls. So how are you balancing that? And I know you were talking about like in Jesus and all that, but how are you going through this stage of life, coaching, having kids, all of that?
Yeah, day by day. I think that there's has to be grace because postpartum hormones changes, little I identity changes are big with having children, and it's been really challenging, and just really surrounded myself with people that um, know me and know what my big I identities are, and that are just reminding me of those when there are days where I'm doubting or where I'm struggling. And as far as like work and balance and all that stuff, it's just literally each day waking up and even asking God before my feet even touch the ground, like, what do you have for me today? Like, let me not miss what your purposes are for me. Because if I'm in control, then I want the things that are big and flashy. I want the things that are going to make me feel the best, inside, and think that I get the best views from outside. But what does God see of me, and what is important to Him today? And sometimes that will mean like just the four walls of my home, like just being present here. Sometimes it's paying attention to the girl that is on the bench when I'm coaching, even though while I'm coaching, I'm thinking about my daughters. I'm thinking about how I need to go nurse my other daughter because my body is reminding me how badly I need to do that. And my mother-in-law is watching my older, and she's texting me, and all these things. And yet God's giving me sensitivity to someone on the bench that I need to see and I want to talk to and want to hear from. So if I'm concerned about the big picture too often, I'll miss those little things. So it's really just day by day asking God for those things, and really reminding myself what matters most and who I am in Jesus, even if I don't always see that in myself.
That's amazing. I know a lot of people that are listening on here, they're kind of not yet having kids, but are going to be transitioning to that phase within the next couple of years. And I think, again, that's another scary thing. People are told, oh, if you want to have kids, you have to put everything else aside. And I just love the way that you said you don't have to put everything else aside. You just day by day to get through the different things. But last little thing, more of a fun question. I just ask everyone who's on here. I'm a big avid coffee drinker. So if you drink coffee, what's
Yes.
your go-to order?
My go-to is an 8-ounce Americano. So
Ooh.
it's just a double shot espresso with 8 ounces of water. So it's less than like a 12 ounce. And it's the best. It's the bomb. If you like coffee and you like a dark but smooth drink, versus like a cup of coffee, the it's sort of just like a small concentrated coffee cup. But my husband, we got an espresso maker. My husband makes it
Ooh.
for me every morning.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the way to go, is find a man that will make you a coffee. No.
Yes, then you're set.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And
How
then
about you? What's yours?
I really love cold brews, but
Okay.
when I want more of like a fun drink, or if I'm getting coffee with a friend, I go dirty chai with almond milk all the way. Yes, that's
okay.
what
Love
my
that.
parents didn't drink coffee growing up, so I didn't start drinking it till college. And chais
Oh,
were what got me
wow.
into it. And then I started adding a shot of espresso in it. And then I'm like, oh, I kind of like coffee. Now let me
Yeah,
try coffee,
totally.
now cold brew. So it kind of built
Oh,
off of
that's
that. So
funny. Yeah.
go back to my roots, I guess.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
it.
I don't ask everyone this, but because you're in Orange County and I lived there for a little bit, what's your favorite coffee shop in Orange County?
Okay, Keen Coffee is the best
Yes.
coffee. Like, I don't know what it is about their roast, but it's my favorite. If I'm going vibes, that might not be my jam. I really love Oladios. It's a new coffee shop sort of
Mm,
near Vanguard, actually.
yeah.
Um, so there's some other vibes like neat coffee I really like, but Keen Coffee is my favorite roast.
Yes.
It's
Keen
it's the
Coffee
best. Yeah.
has the best. They do like a pumpkin chai during Halloween time
Oh,
to die for. Yes.
so good. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Natalie, for being on here. And again, everyone, check out Female Athlete Mission. It's the fam. You can find them online on social media. Check out the podcast. I really think there's so much everyone can learn from them. And I'm
Mhm.
just, Natalie, I'm so grateful for you from leading my little Bible study my freshman year of college to constantly staying involved, whether if it was meeting for coffee or reaching out and asking if I want to play pickup. And so if you don't have a Natalie in your life, go find one because she's
Aw, thanks for saying
amazing.
that.
Yes. But thank you so much for
Oh,
being
I
on here
love
today,
that.
Natalie.
Yes, thanks for having me. I love that you're doing this.